Thank you. It's a delight to be here. And as the local MP, let me add my words of welcome to all of those who've come from out of town for the 7th State Conference of AFPI. It's a great pleasure to greet the distinguished doctors on the dais and, of course, in the audience, and my very, very best wishes for the success of this meeting. I should start with an apology. I recognize we're a bit late. It's a crowded life when you're in politics, and particularly when you're in your own constituency. And so I was held back by factors I could not avoid, and I will be rushing off again because I'm already overdue for an 11 o'clock commitment at the Legislative Assembly. But I did want to say to all of you how pleased I am, first, that there is a specialty of family practice and that is growing in popularity and respect in the state. And second, how pleased I am that you have chosen to gather in the state capital, Trivandrum, not least because I represent it, but also because this is the confluence of all these streams in the state that come together, and there could be no better place than for people from every corner of Kerala to get together and focus on a cutting-edge approach to medicine. I'm so pleased to learn about family practice having become a specialty. I was quizzing one of the senior doctors in the elevator about whether there is a difference between the old-fashioned GPs and today's family practitioners. And she says, yes, there is. We get 3 years extra training, which I think is a very good piece of explanation for the rest of us who didn't know that. But I must say the concept remains wonderful. We have become a country where increasingly we have tended to lean towards specializations. That is, doctors tend to specialize, no one seems to be content with a general medicine degree anymore, and at the same time, patients seem to expect that. And there is a tendency on the part of many patients these days to decide on the basis of their own understanding of the symptoms they have, sometimes based on perhaps an irresponsible trawling of the internet, what kind of specialist they really need to see. And then off they will go to see a specialist. It will turn out their self-diagnosis was wrong, so the specialist will refer them to another specialist, and by the time they're done, they have lost several months and their problems have persisted, whereas if they'd gone to a family practitioner earlier, they might well have avoided that problem. What I like about the concept, as I understand it, of family practice, is its holistic nature. You get to know the entire family, you understand family histories, you understand the way in which people may have a proclivity to certain illnesses. You are able to counsel a family when it comes to prevention of ill health, particularly seeing certain tendencies in a family that you observe. You can always advise them to modify their lifestyle, their dietary habits, their other habits, smoking and so on, which mercifully is on the decline in our country. Lots of things that can be done, and of course being aware of family history. A parent who has passed away from a particular kind of condition can encourage a family practitioner to encourage the younger members of the same family to have a more responsible preventive attitude to the same sort of illness. The other aspect of family practice, as I understand it, apart from this overall 360-degree view of the family's health needs, is that you are able to look at the patient's entire symptoms and to judge, if necessary, whether further specialist attention is required. Which means that a family practitioner becomes the first port of call, as I understand it, for any patient with any sort of problem. So you have had, through your general medicine exposure, plus the 3 years of specialized training, an ability, it seems to me, to essentially treat most maladies without the patient having to need to go to a specialist. But if at all the condition is judged by you to be of sufficient seriousness to warrant specialist intervention, you would be better positioned than the patient himself to judge what kind of intervention that should be, and even to recommend who should undertake it. And this, to my mind, makes a very big difference when it comes to having someone one can trust. I must admit that I, having returned to India rather late in life, don't have a GP, don't have a family practitioner. I'm one of those people who is stuck looking at only as visiting specialists, and some of the specialists end up advising me on minor maladies that have nothing to do with their specialty, because I don't have a GP to go to or a family doctor to go to. But of course, it doesn't help that having come back to India after many years abroad, I don't have a family either, so that becomes a bit of a disqualification when it comes to having a practice. But my mother now lives with me, and I've been making sure that she is attended to. And of course, at that age, very often the old are also extremely in need of doctors who are familiar with a wide variety of problems, which is what leads me to my final observation. And that is that as the society gradually ages, ours is still a young society, our median age is only 29, but Kerala is aging. Kerala is startlingly different from the Indian average in every respect. In India, as you may be aware, 50.1% of our population is under 25. In Kerala, only 23% of our population is under 25. We are not typical of India at all in terms of the youth demographics and the youth profile. And so the older people are going to be, I'm afraid, of increasing concern to the medical profession. Many of you doctors are, of course, young and in the prime, and you will be treating people who are much older and are growing old. And it doesn't hurt, of course, that Kerala is a state which has a deserved reputation for being a relatively good place to grow old. There are other places in India where you wouldn't really want to be growing old because of the terrible care that you would get on the inadequate facilities. But Kerala is blessed and well equipped in that regard. And so you will have on your hands a larger number of older people. In the longer term, you will be able to see an entire family through a series of life cycles, treating the children, the parents, and perhaps the grandparents. And then as the family grows, you will be in a very good position to give them an overall picture and to attend to them. To be familiar with a patient 20 years from now whom you knew as a 10-year-old, it seems to me would be an extraordinary advantage that others may not have. Mind you, doctors also age eventually, so that you too will at some point need to hand the baton to somebody else, but you will be able to give them a very comprehensive account if they take over your family practice of the history of the families that they're taking care of. So all of this suggests to me that this is a very exciting new discipline, a very useful and needed new discipline, and I want to wish you all great success in your deliberations. I'm sure you'll be exchanging notes about best practices from elsewhere as well as in our state, some of the particular challenges that are linked to being in our state, including, I'm assuming, issues of our diet and so on, which are very special and particular to us. Kerala is famously the diabetes capital of India. Indeed, the highest incidence, as I understand it, of diabetes per head of population is in Kerala rather than anywhere else in the world. We are also increasingly becoming the heart attack capital of India. There are lots of concerns that this is a state where there are going to be more and more problems that can be addressed through attentive, comprehensive, holistic and preventive healthcare. So I wish all of you success. I hope the meeting goes very well, that you're able to exchange notes and information. I want to thank young Riddle, the organizing secretary, for bringing you all here and for dragging me here to address you. And so with these words, with great happiness, let me officially announce that your conference stands inaugurated.